breaking news. The 49ers did not sign Azeez Ojulari, but the Eagles did. Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. This is the most confusing offseason I can remember with the 49ers. It's dramatic, but it's also very confusing. I feel like I'm watching a David Lynch show or movie, and at the end, I'm like, I don't understand what just happened. So we're going to talk big picture, but the Eagles just signed Azeez Ojulari. 1 year, $4 million. So cheap. Why were the Niners not interested? Or was he just not interested in the 49ers? What do you think?
Well, it's funny because I had Matt Barrows on KMBR Friday, and I was asking him about Azeez Ojulari, and he said, I've already checked with the Niners. They have no interest in Azeez Ojulari. And then I thought to myself, wow. And then I just read your tweet a second ago. The 49ers spent more money on their blocking tight end who has 0 NFL touchdowns than the Eagles, who already have an awesome defensive line, just paid for Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari to add 2 more speed rushers of note to their already sickening, awesome defensive line. They paid less money than the Niners paid for their blocking tight end. Oh, I don't even know where to begin.
Interest in Azeez Ojulari. Why would they be interested in Azeez Ojulari? Why would you want Azeez Ojulari when you have Yatir Gross-Matos and Drake Jackson?
It might be time for the 49ers to hold a little press conference and explain themselves, because I don't think anybody else can really, nobody can explain what they're doing. There are people that will use charts and graphs and stats to find out what they did and then justify it. But nobody's actually sitting there and actually saying, you know what, they ought to do this, and then pointing out that, the things that they've done. So I don't know exactly where to start in evaluating this offseason. It's beyond frustrating because they have tons and tons of needs, and they're not filling them. They're not signing their quarterback. They're vowing to be ruthless in negotiations. But their depth chart is sad.
I mean, it's clear they're like planning to draft a lot of plug and play defensive linemen. Great, wonderful. But are you sure you're going to hit on all those guys? I mean, you've missed on some big high draft picks. This guy was really cheap. The Eagles were interested. Why aren't you interested? They're better than you in every way. Anyway, big picture. Do you think the Niners organization is on the same page? They cut Juszczyk. 4 days later, they bring him back for about the same price after taking a dead cap hit. What do you think? They had a collective change of heart, or there's like factions competing?
It's so hard to say because, and then the big picture question is like, okay, so they look like on March 17th here on St. Patrick's Day, it does look like the 49ers are taking a year to recalibrate, reassess. It doesn't look like they're in it to win it. It looks like they're like transitioning, like they're going to take a cap hit this year. They're going to, regroup. But on paper, it should be Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's prove it year, gotta have it year. So who's decided to take this backslide? And are the same people who decided to take this kind of backstep going to be cool if the team itself takes a backstep and wins 4 or 5 games again this year? Does that mean that Shanahan and Lynch are all set and locked up? I get the sense that they're doing this to reset on Jed's money, but that Kyle and John are not set for the long term in the future. And I think that's where this thing could get really weird.
I agree. It seems to me like, I don't know that they're on the hot seat this year. I think they should be, but I don't know that they are. It seems like there's a lot of people getting signed through 2026. That seems to be a key year. And maybe the Niners, John and Kyle, have this year and next year 2 drafts, limited budget for free agency to rebuild the team. And if they are successful, they get extensions. If not, they leave. It could be a 2-year trial test. I don't know. And maybe if the if they feel that way, like we have to produce, even though you're going cheap, then I need use check. I need a really expensive blocking tight end. And if our defense isn't that good, that's okay. I want my offense to be my job in the hands of my offense.
It's perplexing because on one hand, I don't have a real problem with the moves that they've made as far as the players they let go. I thought most of the players they let go are not very good anymore. I wanted to see them bring Greenlaw back. It sounds like they made like an 11th hour, according to Schefter, they made an 11th hour, second effort to bring Dre back after he had already agreed with Denver, obviously to no avail. But so I don't really have a problem with really any of the moves that they've made. It's the moves that they haven't made are the ones that are the most disturbing. It's like, it's not, I got no problem. You want to say goodbye to all the guys you said goodbye to outside of Dre Greenlaw. I'm pretty much, I am in total lockstep with you. But how are you going to win this year? How are you don't your defensive line used to be 10 deep. It's now 2 deep. I mean, you have a need for about 6 defensive linemen, and they're all going to be rookies. There's no free agents left. So unless you're going to have just an awesome rookie defensive line, which the Rams had, the Rams did it with Verse and Fisk. And there's been an awful lot of speculation that the Niner plan is really just the Rams plan from the last couple of years kind of reenacted. But that plan included Les Snead landing studs on the defensive line in the draft.
They went 4 for 4 with those draft picks on the D line. They didn't miss.
And we'll see.
Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, and Braden Fiske, like all 4 for 4. Yep. You got to do that.
You got to go 4 for 4. You have to not to mention you still need a couple offensive linemen. You need to redo your linebacking core. Everybody there is old. You don't have what's Aiyuk going to be this year? Obviously, Debo's not here. Who's going to be your receivers on this team? It just seems like they're taking a step back. But is everybody on board with that? Is Kyle on board with that? Is John on board with that? Is Jed on board with them winning 5 games or 6 games this year? My sense of it is that when we get together, they're going to all say, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We're still going for it like we always have. We're still,
Well, you mentioned the Rams, right? The Rams did this. They took on the dead cap, and they won 10 games and made the playoffs in 2023. So I think from the York's perspective is I don't care that we're cutting the budget. The Rams did it, and Sean McVay still was able to win, and you're getting paid as much as Sean McVay. You think you're just as good as him, so you should be able to do it too, especially because you still have use check. So here's the thing. You mentioned Greenlaw. Greenlaw's contract details came out today. When it was reported 3 years, $35 million, it's like, oh, well, that's why the Niners didn't re-sign him. But then the details come out today, and it's like, there's no guaranteed money after year 1. And he essentially gets the signing bonus and the salary this year. It's essentially 1 year, $11.5 million guaranteed. After that, nothing's guaranteed. What do you think about the Niners letting Greenlaw go now that you know that?
Well, I didn't love it to begin with. I don't know what their offer was, but obviously it wasn't enough. To me, I mean, he's a 20. What is he? 27, 28,
27, 28. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he played 34 snaps last year because he tore his Achilles on Super Bowl Sunday. Mm-hmm. So that's why he didn't play until the end. So I don't know if we can look at last year. I mean,
when he played, he was really good.
Yeah, well, and the people who want to, side with the team on every turn are like, hey, you know what? He only played 34 snaps this year. Okay, but that's an
what
isolated
happens when you tear your Achilles in February.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what happens.
And we're supposed to believe he's injury prone because he could only play 34 snaps rushing back from an Achilles. I mean, to me, the guy showed you he's got the heart of a lion. Every guy in that room respects him. They're noticeably
look like he lost a step.
No, he hasn't lost. If he has lost a step,
he didn't look like it in that game.
He didn't show it in that first half of that Ram game. That's for sure. So, I mean, I get no problem if you're going to sit here and say, because like a lot of people are like, hey, Krug, relax. Because I'm, pissed off that they lost out on Greenlaw. And they're like, hey, man, they wanted to get younger, faster, and cheaper. Well, that's fine. as long as you don't then go after Joey Bosa and try to re-sign Kyle Juszczyk.
Right.
But instead, they did go after Joey Bosa, and they did try to re-sign Kyle Juszczyk, or they did re-sign Kyle Juszczyk. So I guess I'm not seeing the game plan, or I don't know if there is a game plan. Is it possible that faster, younger, cheaper at the end of the day is really just cheaper? It's
That's
not
what I'm
really
wondering.
about faster or younger.
Yeah, I mean, when they let Greenlaw go, it's like, okay, well, he is a good player, but he's getting a little bit older. He's on the expensive side. It's just not really fitting with the theme of the offseason. I understand. I get it. Makes sense. But then you cut Juszczyk and bring him back, and that doesn't make any sense. You're not necessarily getting younger. You signed Demarcus Robinson, who's like 31, solid player, but you seem like you're just getting cheaper, not necessarily younger. And again, like you said, this isn't necessarily a coach and a general manager that if they don't have rings, they can't just say, let's plan for the future. No, they have to make sure they'll be employed in the future. And that kind of involves a half rebuild. This isn't a full rebuild, but it does feel like a half rebuild.
Well, it feels like Jed pushed back on them and said, hey, do you guys realize that we're number 2 in the entire league in cash spending since, you guys have been here? And then John was asked about it at the combine. He's like, do you guys realize that we're number 2 in cash spending since we've been here? So it's like, message to the Niners. The fans don't care about your cash spending. Don't care at all. They care about their cash spending. They don't care about your cash spending. Cash spending is not in the standings. Cash spending, go hang a flag that says cash spending. Nobody cares about cash spending. You care about cash spending. I don't even think your GM or your head coach really care about cash spending until you told them that it was the key factor. So I think that this is all about, let's get Jed's cash in order, which is why I really do believe that we're going to see an Aiyuk trade here probably before the end of the month when that money's due him. And I think he's going to be traded for day 3 picks, and probably multiple day 3 picks. And I think I'm expecting it. I think a lot of Niner fans are going to be like, what are you? I think a lot of Niner fans are going to be like, unbelievable. I can't believe they did that, but I think it's coming.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think with the Yorks, I like what you said. Like their job is to spend money. No one has any sympathy for them that they spent. Who cares that you spent a lot the last few years? You're supposed to. You know who else spends a lot? The Eagles. You're supposed to. You know why? Because you make a lot of money. I mean, you're printing money with the 49ers. You have a historic franchise that you inherited that you didn't. I mean, you haven't won any freaking championships, but you get all of that cachet. And you're supposed to pay. If you don't have enough cash, you could sell 10% of the team, or you could sell 100% of the team. Whatever you want. No one really cares. I'm with you on that. But I do want to ask you about Aiyuk. Do you think he ultimately, I mean, obviously the Niners want to trade Brandon Aiyuk. That's obvious. Lynch was asked point blank. He didn't say no. They want to save money. He's got a 22.5 option bonus due on April 1. They want to trade him. Do you think they'll find the trade partner, someone who will trade for that contract before really seeing Brandon Aiyuk run?
I do. You know why? Because I think the price tag, it's like, hey man, I've been using this comparison a lot. I don't know if you've heard it, but I basically been saying, hey, look, if I had a Bentley and I paid $150,000 for it, and I got into a fender bender and it's got a bent frame, but it still drives, and I tried to sell it, am I going to get $150,000 for it? No. Am I going to get $100,000 for it? No. Is anybody going to want it at $75,000? Probably not. But guess what? If I'm willing to take $25,000, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of people out there who are like, yeah, I'll drive a Bentley around town with a bent frame for $25,000, a car that's worth $150,000. That's what they're going to do with BA. I believe. I think they're, Kawakami had that note in his piece the other day that the Niners can get back $110 million of Jed's money by moving him. And it's not that painful.
That would really warm my heart. Sometimes I stay up at night and I think, man, Jed's going to have to spend a lot of money on Brandon Aiyuk, and I hope he doesn't, because he might not be able to eat dinner that night. He might have to, miss a mortgage payment. I hope that doesn't happen.
Jed evicted. because he has no money. No, but I
Just
mean,
standing there with his pockets turned out like, I don't know what happened.
it's all Ayuk's fault. But yeah, no, I do think that if that indeed is factually true, and I don't care enough about the cap workings to really look it up, but Kawakami did say they could trade him at any point, and that $110 million could be recouped in a trade. Well, that's it right there. I mean, we need not look any further for. I wonder if they can get what they can get for Aiyuk. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get that 110 back. I think. And you know what? Cleveland has four. I looked this up this weekend. Cleveland has 6th-round picks. 4. That's a ton of 6th-round picks. And if I'm the 49ers, I probably would, if my interest is really, I just want to shed the 110 for Jed, then bring me those 6th-round picks. I'll take those 6th-round picks for Aiyuk. All 4
This
of
could
them.
really blow up in the Niners' face, though. If he goes somewhere and plays well, if Greenlaw plays well, if Afunga plays well, if Travarius Ward plays well, if Aaron Banks plays well, if Jalen Moore wins a championship, I mean, there's so many guys. And the Niners replaced him. There's
Jordan Mason.
no one. I mean, he's in a great spot. So, yeah, I would trade Aiyuk too, but trading him for a 6th-round pick, a little scary because there's not a lot of upside there for you. What about this? What about you trade him and pick 11? How far up could you get in round 1 with him and pick 11? Not far. 1 spot, 2 spots.
Well, the Browns picked 2.
What about the Panthers at 8? 3 spots.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt you could get up. I mean, I would say the teams that would be looking would be Carolina, New England, Cleveland. I think those are the 3.
Now, to get up to New England and Carolina, you might have to New England and the other one, sorry. Cleveland, you might have to trade the 2nd-round pick too. And I don't know if you want to do that because you have to draft so many starters this year.
Yeah, but I think we're thinking of it the wrong way. I think they have so many needs that okay, so Lynch was asked about this by Chase Sr. at the Combine, right? He got, hey, what about the Aiyuk thing? And what really has made us talk about this is that Lynch easily could have said, hey, man, he's likely not going anywhere. He could have just said that. He's likely not going anywhere. And everybody would have just let it die. Or he could have said, you know what? We just signed this guy. So he's our guy, and he definitely isn't going anywhere. Or he could do what he did when I asked him about Nick Bosa potentially being traded. Before I could even get to the word Bosa, he was already nope.
Yep, that's
so
true.
he did not say nope. Instead, he took out a gigantic gas can and just poured gas in it and flipped a match on it and was like, yeah, we've spent too much money. We need a reset. And then after this huge diatribe, he goes, and the good part of this, never saying what this is, the good part of this is we need to get younger, and we're one of the oldest teams in football. So to me, it came across, Grant, like we are trading Brandon Aiyuk, and we're trading him for draft picks. And because of his contractual situation, he's not worth a lot of draft picks, at least high draft picks. So we're going to take what we can get. So I don't know. I mean, I think they might be willing to take. Well, now, would Cleveland give them 4 6th-round picks? Would the Niners take 4 6th-round picks? What would be the reaction of the fan base if the Niners took 4 6th-round picks? And then the other question is, could you get a third because they have multiple thirds or something like that? Maybe. And then could you turn around and flip that third to the Raiders for like a Michael Mayer, and now you got another tight end? I don't know, but I do think that Lynch kind of told us directly or indirectly, I'm trading Aiyuk for picks, and I think those are going to be multiple day 3 picks. And I think Cleveland's probably the team because I think Andrew Berry likes receivers and will trade for them. They're going nowhere this year. They're trying to cleanse their whole cap situation. This is a way for them to don't look at Deshaun over there. Look at Brandon over here. Don't look at the future, the past. Let's look at the future. Would the Niners take a third and some 6ths for Aiyuk, or would the Niners take 4 6ths, just straight up 6th-round picks for Aiyuk? They might. Let
me ask you this. Why did the 49ers trade Jordan Mason?
Money. I think it was money. Now, I don't think it fit in well here because you saw what happened this year. I mean, he he doesn't like talking to the media. Then he talked out of turn, said something he shouldn't have. Then he got yelled at. And then he was like absolutely pissy the rest of the year. It was like watching him at the podium. I felt like I was watching a 6-year-old. I mean, it's like, dude, grow up. You're a pro football player. If you don't want to talk, say you don't want to talk. You don't want the media PR people in your face, tell them to get out of your face. I mean, he literally went to the podium and acted so immaturely. And he was emotionally shut off from that point. It was the weirdest thing. I think he just needed a change of scenery. And but I think it has something to do with the money. I think it has to do with they didn't want to pay him that money.
It was strange. I mean, they always talked about how, like, he didn't really know his assignments and he couldn't pass the weekly tests and he wasn't really a student of the game, but he was always really good at football, really good at playing. And then this year, it seemed like it all came together. He was one of the leading rushers in the league through the first 5 or 6 weeks. Clearly one of the most powerful. I mean, he's not Derrick Henry, but he's one of the most powerful runners in the league. I think he's a lot like Najee Harris, who is a no doubt starter. And the Niners weren't really interested. They like Garendo. They like Christian McCaffrey. That's fine. But Jordan Mason, I mean, they got very little for him. They moved up 27 spots and got a 6th-round pick next year. And the Vikings get a guy who could give him 1,000 yards. No, it's a good trade for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good offseason if you're trying to help everybody else win. If you're trying to help your team win, not so much. But I just think that maybe the fumbling had a little to do with it. He did have a tendency to fumble, but it was his reaction to saying something he shouldn't have said about an injury. I think the way the team reacted to it, then the way he reacted to it, he acted the rest of the year like so put out anytime anybody asked him a question. It was like borderline ridiculous and uncomfortable, his pressers when he was be up there and he's just like mad at the world. It reminded me of like a 12-year-old who just got grounded. I mean, it was like, dude, come on, man. Are you being serious here? I mean, I understand you spoke at a school. Somebody got in your face, told you shouldn't have said that. So what? Move on. Get over it. But he couldn't get over it.
He was honest, and I did think he was emotional, and I think he was upset, probably because the team kind of held him out. I don't think he was mad at us.
No, it wasn't mad at us, but he was mad at maybe having to talk to us.
I think he was mad at the situation where in his first start, he hit a great game, and then immediately he got in trouble because of the Christian McCaffrey news that he didn't know he wasn't. Here's the thing about him. I like him because he's just a natural. Like, he doesn't really like football. I think he likes football. He says he doesn't watch football. He's like, look, I mean, I play it, but I was like, dude, you remind me of Marshawn Lynch. He's like, honestly, I don't know who that is. I love that about him. And I don't think Kyle likes it. I think Kyle likes guys who went to Harvard, who went to Stanford, who are very cerebral and love football. Like Kittle's like that. McCaffrey's like that. Jordan Mason's like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I just run really freaking hard. And I don't think that's Kyle's style. I like it.
5'2" carry, man.
Like Ferdinand the Bull.
Yeah, I don't care what he does. He ran for 5'2" a carry.
He's a natural.
You gave him to another NFC contender
that was so generous of you
to move up a few spots. I mean,
they must really not think much of Jordan Mason. Like, go ahead, go to the Vikings. What are you going to do?
I mean, are you Super Bowl? Are you going that good? I mean, that's be my question. Hey, Niners, are you going good enough where you can hand a young, talented running back to another Super Bowl contender in your conference? Really? Are you going that good?
Yeah. Strange. I mean, that team won 14 games last year, 13 games. Okay, enough about Mason. It seems like all of these moves are in anticipation of the big contract Brock Purdy's going to get, right? Like, why are the Niners slashing spending all of a sudden? Oh, because they're saving cash for Brock Purdy, the biggest contract extension in franchise history. It's coming. It's right around the corner, right? Well, here we are, March 17th, still not here. What do you think the deadline actually is?
Well, okay, I thought maybe the deadline would be the beginning of March 12th or the beginning of March, just so they would know whatever they had to spend in free agency. But if the plan was to spend nothing hardly in free agency, then I guess it really doesn't matter if you get them signed around free agency. So I would say, since it's not about that anymore, then it's just about the winning. I would say you got to get him. He's got to be there for the main mini camp after the draft, if he's not there for the main mini camp after the draft, that's the beginning that's when your whole team gets together for the very first time. That will be a bad, bad omen if Brock Purdy is not there for that first minicamp.
But Parag isn't going to be like, well, you know what? We tried to play hardball. They didn't go for it. OTA starts tomorrow. You know what? Let's just give him what he wants so we can have our team ready to go. They're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. They know it. They're not putting their best foot forward. They might back into contention, but there would be some luck involved in that. I think from your if it's not Super Bowl or bust, then do what they always do. Take a really long time. Make Purdy sweat it out. And if he holds out, that's what you got Mac Jones for.
I think there's probably a lot of truth in that. I mean, you don't use words like we want to be ruthless in negotiations if you're planning on caving in May.
Right.
But
Purdy said he wanted to get it done quick. Did Lynch say that? He was like, be nice, but
is ruthless.
We'll see.
Ruthless might mean that you don't get it done at all. Ruthless might be that you tell them, hey man, $5.2 million. You don't like it? So what? Yeah. We'll
3-year deal with 2 years guaranteed. You don't like it? Come back and prove that you're better. Yeah. Like Darnold got a 3-year deal with 1 year guaranteed. I could see the Niners offering something a little bit better, but not that much better, because that's what I would do. No offense to Brock Purdy, but come on, you had one great full season. And the beginning, rookie year was nice, but it was like 2 months. And then last year was very up and down. So how much can you really demand off of that 2023? I don't know.
Well, here's the other part of this. It's like, so you have Parag handling the contract, saying he wants to be ruthless. You have a quarterback that is coming off of a regression year, whether it was directly related to him or the talent around him. There's no question he regressed. And so in the middle of this, you're going to get, and you have a front office and an ownership group that clearly is having second guessing the negotiations of the past with Aiyuk, Debo, and Bosa. So now you're going to say you're going to be ruthless and with Brock Purdy, and we're supposed to believe that this is a deal that is going to get done. I would say it seems like it's almost would be impossible to get done. We'll see, but they've stated they all want Brock, but I don't know.
Right.
Whose idea was Mac Jones? Is that a Kyle idea? Is that a John idea? Is that a Jed idea? Is that a Parag idea? I don't know. I don't know whose idea that was, but it's going to be interesting to see. All this makes sense, Grant, if they're about to give Brock Purdy $120 million guaranteed, and that outlay's coming. But if that outlay doesn't come after all the belt tightening, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be noticing and complaining.
Isn't it possible that they're aware that they're going to give Brock Purdy an offer that's far below what he expects? Isn't it possible that the Niners could be like daring Brock to hold out? Like, they want to give him the contract extension, but at the same time, if he doesn't take it, that's a lot of cash they get to save, the Yorks. And from Kyle's perspective, like, maybe he doesn't want to get married or be wedded to Brock Purdy. Maybe the idea of Brock Purdy holding out and getting a look at Mac Jones and what he could do for pennies is appealing to him. It'd be appealing to me. I'm just saying.
I think I like the presence of Mac Jones. Why? Because I think Brock Purdy is so competitive that this will make him. Mac Jones is not his handpicked guy. Brandon Allen is a quarterback who could never start, who was represented by Brock's agent himself. So, you're never going to get a more comfortable backup than that. He can never beat you out, and his agent's your agent. It's like you make one phone call. I don't want him here anymore. Suddenly he's not here anymore. So he'll never have an easier, backup than Brandon Allen. I don't think Mac Jones would be Brock Purdy's first choice. My guess is he probably doesn't want him here. And I think that's a good thing, because this is, you want to make Brock uncomfortable. I want to challenge Brock Purdy. I want to find out. I want to see how, competitive he is. I want him to compete against Mac Jones, because I didn't feel like I got the best out of Brock Purdy last year. And I think that was the first year there really was nobody there for him to compete with. And I don't think that's accidental. I think that's cause and effect.
I agree. Like he didn't compete with Sam Darnold for the job or with Trey Lance. But I mean, having Sam Darnold there, having Trey Lance there, put pressure on Brock Purdy. Like you're the starter now, but if you falter at all, there are other options. And with last year is like, dude, you're the franchise guy. We have jokes behind you. Like go do whatever. And I feel like we kind of saw it in his play. He started playing outside of himself. He started trying to do too much. He started trying to prove that he was someone he's not. Now it's like you need to come back and be that point guard who just distributes the ball and let the playmakers be the playmakers. Because if you don't, and you try doing that hero stuff again, that's how Mac plays. Mac's the point guard. Mac's not trying to scramble around. Mac's not trying to extend plays because he can't, because he's slow. But it's great that Brock can do all that stuff. But he still needs to be able to be that, point guard primarily. He wasn't last year a lot of the time. So I think it's nice that they brought in someone like Mac who's going to reinforce the assignment for Brock.
No question. And be there if Brock has one of these, 3 or 4 week deals where he's throwing picks and, turning the ball over, not seeing it. I felt like his whole dial, Grant, of risk reward was off this year. I referenced it to Shanahan late in the year. I said, man, how can you coach him out of some of his over aggressiveness? He's like, I don't see any over aggressiveness. I'm like, really? You don't see any over aggressiveness? He just threw an interception.
And what were you reaming him about at his locker after the game?
Yeah. Well, and then on the game where their season ended on a blind pass on first down all the way down the field when all the offensive players were open underneath, and Brock forced it down the field to Juwan Jennings, and Juwan couldn't break it up in time because he tripped or something, but it was a terrible
if Jimmy
throw.
throws that pass, we're like, dude, what are you doing? But with Brock, he's done so many good things. You're like, it's uncharacteristic.
It was high risk on first down. I mean, come on. You're the season's in the balance, and you're going to float up a pass down the field to Juwan Jennings, some 50-50 ball when the all 22 showed there were 3 offensive players. The Rams were playing deep on all of them, taking away all the deep passes. It was all there in front of you. It wasn't the last play of the game. It wasn't 4th down. It wasn't 3rd down. You didn't have to take that level of a chance.
You were in the field goal range, and you were in a game that was a field goal game. You were in field goal range.
Right. And
anyway,
and when I asked Shanahan about it, he's like, no, I don't think he's over aggressive. It's like, well, really? I mean, seriously? That's what you think? I mean, on that play? I mean,
that being said, though, I bet you Parag in these negotiations is bringing this stuff up. Like, you think you're worth $50 million a year? What about this?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so last year Brock had a down season, but it wasn't all his fault, right? Because there were some injuries okay, but look at the roster now. They just gutted it and lost 9 starters. When you pay a quarterback $50 million a year, you lose a bunch of people. And the expectation is he's going to elevate the team the way Stafford elevated a young Rams team the last 2 years, the way Allen elevated a young Bills team last year. We saw Brock try to elevate a so-so team last year. It didn't go so well. He seems like he's one of these quarterbacks who's really good on a really good team. And there's no shame in that, but that's what it is.
Well, I mean, how is he going to elevate this team if, his tight end's on the wrong side of 30, his fullback's almost 35, his running backs coming off of multiple Achilles, and you just chased away his top 2 receivers. I mean, which is probably going to be the reality by week 1. So it's like, I mean, really? He's supposed to just go out there and wing it to Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and all's right with the world? I mean, this can be a very interesting year because they don't look good right now, and yet I think the expectation is that they win. And if they don't win, I'm sure Brock's going to be saying, "Hey, well, what about my cast?" And I'm sure if Kyle's feet are held to the fire, why wouldn't he say, "Hey, you just we just chased away all of our talent, did nothing, and then came back and didn't improve." I mean, and you guys are surprised by this. So I don't know. I'd love to hear that John, Jed, Kyle, and Parag are all on the same page, because if they are, then no big deal. They've had some success. They're going to do a reset. They're probably going to win 8 or 9 games this year at most, even with the easy schedule. And maybe next year they'll come back with a chance to kind of jump into that Super Bowl mix. But if it's, you know what? You know, Kyle and John, this is your year to produce. And in the midst of your year to produce, they got rid of Debo and Aiyuk. And, you know, I mean, it's like, that's, I would imagine there's going to be some unhappiness down there if they're not all on the same page.
Sean says the Kyle Juszczyk reversal, in my opinion, was to appease Kittle, whom they're looking to extend. Roster politics in full effect. York needs to clean house. This is starting to look dysfunctional. That's interesting, right? Like, why didn't the Niners sign Azeez Ojulari? Because he's ring chasing. Why didn't the Niners sign Joey Bosa? Because he's ring chasing and you're resetting and everyone knows it. So if you want to extend George Kittle, maybe he's looking at it like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to sign up to be on this rebuild. Like, you need to show me that we're actually trying to contend, because I'm going to be 32 this year. And if you're going to do a full-on reset and trade McCaffrey and get rid of Juszczyk and maybe trade Brock, then I'm out. So maybe this is, to sort of keep Kittle in.
I don't know. I mean, Kittle is, already on record as saying that he wants to be a Niner till the end of his career. So, but maybe, would he change his mind if you get rid of Juszczyk?
Everyone.
I don't know. I mean, I don't even understand the Juszczyk re-signing. I don't understand what he does that's so great. I really don't. I mean, you can't run the ball on the goal line. You can't run the ball in short yardage. He's not a great.
What was the point of giving Luke Farrell $7 million a year? I mean, isn't he now? He makes more money than Juszczyk, right? Like that's the new starter, right? So what's the point?
I mean, he's a backup tight end. He's not a fullback, but once again, you're paying a blocking
$7 million
tight end. You're paying,
dude. That's McKivitz money
replacement more than the Eagles are paying Ojulari and Ushi, who are two proven edge rushers who have had success in the NFL that you need. You need those guys. And they went to your rival and you spent more on your blocking tight end.
It's a bad look.
How many possible snaps per game can you possibly have from Luke Farrell that would be worth that?
Thank you. Daza0187 says that the Niners are rebuilding. Why sign Brock to a big contract if the future with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch isn't certain? Why build a team around a fringe top 10 quarterback? It's a good question. And we surmised, that's a weird word, earlier, that maybe this whole operation is that 2026 is like the make it or break it year. So what the Niners could offer Brock is 3-year deal, 2 years guaranteed. And we're committed to you through 2026. But that's about it, because we're really not committed to anyone beyond 2026. We might want to do a full rebuild. We're going to start with the half rebuild and see how it goes.
To me, the Brock contract is going to be really, really interesting, because if it's more than 3 years, I'd be shocked. I think it's going to be 3 years or less because of what you're describing, because Jed is looking for, it's like, I get the feeling that they don't have a lot of conviction, inside their organization. So it's like, well, we'll have to wait and see. So it's like, well, we'll see how this goes. But I don't see a lot of conviction there. I don't see a lot of conviction that Brock is the guy. I don't see a lot of conviction that Kyle and John are the guys. And it's like, if you had that conviction, you'd give Brock a regular long-term 5-6 year deal, spread that money out. And, you would take this backslide hit this year and go forward with John and Kyle. But I get the sense that nobody's really set, and that Jed wants to have all options available. Well, how do you attract somebody new to run your franchise? Well, you can't have any financial entanglements. There can't be a GM that's hanging around. There can't be a quarterback that's hanging around. If you're going to get somebody, they're going to want to make their own deal and with their own GM and their own quarterback. And so it's like, it kind of shows that they lack conviction in both their starting quarterback and their regime by not going. If everything's really lined up to end in 2026, you're basically saying we're kind of keeping one eye on improving and one eye on pulling the ripcord on the escape hatch.
It's like, we're not breaking up with you yet, but we definitely are looking around for other. We're looking, right, but we're still monogamous. But we're looking.
Baby,
like,
I'm living in the house and I'm still paying the rent and everything, but I just joined 9 dating sites and
And if I find someone I like better than you, then it's over. But for now, you're my favorite. I like you so much.
Now you're it.
Yeah. That's some romantic stuff. That's what dreams are made of. Dazza says, if Niners are rebuilding, why sign Brock to a big contract? If the future with we just read that. No, it's the Cabo. Now it's the Cabo couple, says J Figs Ramon.
Great.
Sean says, Krueger, are you backpedaling on the market as the market position? You sound like you are reconsidering that position. Front office
the
market
is the market?
Screw the market.
Explain this one to me. Am I backpedaling on the market is the market?
Yeah, when did you say the market is the market?
On what are we referring to? Brock? Oh, as far as Brock is concerned, no. I mean, I think you have to pay Brock Purdy. I don't think there's a lot of options here. I think you have to pay Brock Purdy something that starts with a 5. Yes, because you don't just get it's really great that you don't like the market, but you don't get to set your own market. So the market's already set. So yeah, the market's set. So Tua Tagovailoa makes a certain amount of money, and these guys all make a certain amount of money. You're not just going to be able to say, well, you know what? We're going to ignore everybody that's come before, and we're going to create our own market. And it's $30 million.
I mean, that was the market a couple of years ago, but the market is the market. This year's quarterback market seems to be a little bit different. I mean, Josh Allen was the first guy to get extended, and he took $55 million a year. So he's getting paid like less than Jordan Love, less than Dak Prescott. It looks almost like the NFL's correcting itself a little bit. And then Darnold signs for 3 years, 100. It's like, oh, wait a second. Maybe that market's come back a little bit.
But do you really think, I mean, he took that, but that's like saying Mahomes took 45. Yeah, but it was 45 over 10 years. It was $450 million. See, when you're that,
but I'm just saying, like, teams were giving out 50 million plus to quarterbacks, like, just cause all the freaking time. And a lot of those contracts blew up in those teams' faces quickly. And I think maybe teams are being a little bit more hesitant about who gets $50+ million a year.
Yeah, but the only way to get around it is to do a Josh Allen type deal where you give him so much guaranteed money for such a long term that you can keep that average AAV down to 55 million. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay big time, AAV if you don't want to have that guaranteed.
But that's kind of a problem you have if you have Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. The Niners aren't in there. I mean, they're working with a second or third tier quarterback. And if the number 1 tier guy is taking less than Dak Prescott and Jordan Love, then a second or third tier guy is looking at what Sam Darnold got and is like, man, how can I ask for $60 million a year? That's what I thought. That's where I thought the market was going. I mean, I thought that by this year, quarterbacks were getting 65, 70 million a year because the cap keeps going up, and it doesn't look like that's happening.
Well, we'll see exactly where this deal comes in, but I think this deal should be between 50 and 60 million AAV any way you slice it. I think it should be. Because once again, Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, that guy's Brock Purdy's done more than Tua Tagovailoa. He's done more than Trevor Lawrence. He's done more than most of the quarterbacks, including Dak Prescott, who are in that $50 to $60 million range. So, if I'm his agent, I want to make a deal, right? So let's talk about making a deal. What do you need 49ers to be? What do you need out of this on your end? But my guy's got to be taken care of, and it has to be related. It doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to set a new market, no. But it has to be related to the actual market.
I just don't think Tua and Trevor Lawrence are like the industry standard anymore. I think the fact that those organizations clearly regret those deals and they haven't panned out is what we're seeing this offseason. Like teams, like a big correction. Teams are not super eager to spend a ton of money on quarterbacks this year. Well, Aaron Rodgers. Not signed.
I hear you. But then are we going to blame the Niners then? Because now you're asking them to reset and sign their quarterback on time to a deal that's beneath the market value, and that's like battle. That's like a war. That's like basically saying to the Niners, go to war with Brock Purdy and his agent right now. And you try to not pay him market rate and pay him beneath market rate, despite the fact you've gone to a Super Bowl with this guy as your quarterback, and you want it done on time. I mean,
they went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy. What is market rate? I would argue that market rate isn't what Purdy thinks it is. I would
Didn't
argue that the
Jimmy
market rate is 45 million tops. And I bet you the Niners have offered that. And if Brock doesn't want it, then he's got options.
Well, we're not
But
talking
none of
about a
them
big
are.
difference. We're not talking about a big difference. I mean, you're
Huh,
saying 45. I'm saying
yeah, 45.
it's 50. But I mean, either way, what's more important? What's more important? I mean, some people say the only thing that's important is the AAV. Other people say the only thing that's important is the guarantees. Other people say the only thing's important that the things that are 100% guaranteed. I think he's going to get over $100 million in guarantees. I think he will. Whether that deal, depending on, it could be whatever it is, AAV. I think why the Niners backsliding on all these deals and trying to get their cash in order. I think they're getting ready for a massive cash outlay to him to the tune of between 100 and 120 million. That's what and to me, that's why they're being cheap. As far as where does it actually come in, I think he deserves between 50 and 55, right in that range. I don't think he should set a new market, though. I know other people say, oh, well, it's not about are you the best? It's about are you the latest? And I understand that. But every quarterback that goes to market doesn't have to set a new standard. And if the 49ers don't want to set a new standard here, they don't have to. But we're looking at $100 to $120 million of guaranteed money. And the more guaranteed money they can throw him, the less they can keep the AAV into something that's more along the lines of what you're talking about, which is 45.
Look, Josh Allen signed a 6-year, $330 million deal, 147 guaranteed at signing. If Purdy signs a 3-year deal with 2 years guaranteed, I don't think he's going to get $100 million guaranteed. It could be 3 years, 120. 3 years, 120, 3 years, 135, somewhere in that with, I don't know, 80 million guaranteed. I mean, for Darnold, he got 3 years, 100 million with 55 total guaranteed. It doesn't really matter. I just don't think Brock's going to get as much as he thought. If Brock had hit free agency last year, where the market was last year, Jordan Love got $1 bajillion for like 2 good months. Yeah, he could have got that last year, but I think it's different this year.
You wouldn't take this if the Niners offered Brock Purdy 3 years at $50 million per year, $150 million on a 3-year deal with $100 million guaranteed.
Who are you negotiating against? I don't think you have to. It would make Brock feel good, but I don't think you have to.
You think it's that's beneath the market value, even though that
you could make him play out the contract, right? $5 million, and then next year's the franchise tag 41. That's 46. Then the next year's 51. So you could get him for 3 years, $100 million. You could get him for the Sam Darnold contract, except it would be 100% guaranteed. Why would you give him so much more than that? No other team is looking to give him that much. And if it hurts Brock Purdy's feelings, oh freaking well, like you can come back and play out the rookie contract and earn more. Lamar did it, and it didn't wreck his relationship with the Ravens. I don't know. I don't think you have to.
We're talking very similar. We're talking very similar deals. It's about structure at this point, and But I think I think this conversation back and forth kind of illustrates the reality, which is that it likely is going to get done, and it can be hammered out. This shouldn't be the most impossible negotiation, but the Niners' kind of new financial house is probably the wrinkle that makes everything more into that unknown, right? Because we don't know.
I think the Niners have been smart. I think the Niners have been smart. Purdy wanted to get this done quick. The Niners are like, I bet you do. No, we want to let the market define itself this year. Let's let Darnold sign. Let's let Josh Allen sign. Let's let Aaron Rodgers sign. And then we'll talk to you about what you're worth, because that'll show it. You think you're worth that much, but that was the market last year. This year, we got to compare you to, you're worth more than Darnold for sure, but you're worth less than Allen. You might be worth a little bit more than Aaron Rodgers because of his age, but we haven't seen what he's going to. He could sign for dirt cheap. He could sign for 2 years, 1 year.
Here's the thing. Who has leverage? Who do you think has the leverage here?
I think the Niners have the leverage.
Because I think Brock's got a lot of leverage too, because you got to play a season without your starting quarterback. And that's not going to make your head coach happy, and it's probably not going to result in wins. And if the team starts backsliding, and you said it, Jed's, got a lot of money and it's a very valuable franchise, nobody's going to believe
but they
that Jed doesn't have
year.
the money.
They backslid last year. I mean, he just led the team to 6 wins and got hurt twice. Like, it's not like having Brock guarantees a playoff berth. I mean, if he's not there, they might feel like, damn, we could win 6 games with Mac or more.
What would they have won without Brock this year? None.
But if they had Mac Jones, I mean, I think Mac Jones could have won 6 games on the 2024 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, I think, is country hardball, man. And throwing Mac Jones in there is like
2-year deal. And Greasy has to leave, and the new QB coach is good friends with Mac Jones. Oh, that's interesting.
And why did I'd love to know
the
why Greasy tucked tail.
Yeah,
he just doesn't. He doesn't want to coach anymore. No, he wants to coach some more. He's the guy who handpicked Brock Purdy and discovered him and this and that. And Brock Purdy's here. Why does he want to leave? It's like
Greasy hasn't said anything. He's quiet.
I wonder if he has some kind of indication or some knowledge of what the master plan was here and just said, I don't want any part of this. I don't know. Uh-oh. Like that. Grant took off. That's it.
Sorry. StreamYard mouth. Sorry about that. Hold on. We got Baby Radiant saying Niners taking for Arch Manning. Probably. Sean says, so I should buy Bitcoin at 100K because all the other dummies did it. Got it. Look, thank you, Sean. That was a very spirited debate, but we have a lot more things we got to get through and not that much time to do it. So hold on. I want to go over to BetUS, the sponsor of the stream, and look at, hold on. Okay, here we go. The Warriors. They play tonight. They're playing Denver. They're 4.5-point favorites. They don't lose anymore. What do you think? Warriors, Nuggets, 4.5 points for the Warriors.
On this one, I think Vegas is on the money. I like the Warriors to win this game, but that 4.5 is right there. I would say move one column to the right and take minus 170 on the money line.
I like that. That's a smart move because all they have to do is win. The money line, right?
I like Warriors on the money line tonight. I do. They've lost 2 games since Jimmy Butler has been a Warrior. He didn't play in one of them. They've only lost 1 game with Jimmy. And they're playing great ball. The vibe's incredible. Denver is going to be a real test, though. I mean, there's no question about that. Jokic is big time, and they'll be tested. But I like the Warriors. I like the Warriors to battle them tonight and get a win.
How far do you think the Warriors ultimately will go? This kind of reminds me of like when I was a kid and the We Believe team came together because they traded for Stack Jack and Al Harrington mid-season. All of a sudden, it's like, oh wait. This team works. This team is good. They haven't been together that long. It's fun to watch the team find itself or like remake itself halfway through and then go on a run. How far do you think this goes?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this is one of the wildest things we've ever seen as far as, a trade deadline thing. I mean, they were a disaster. They were a tire fire, and now they can't lose. So, and they've got all this championship pedigree. In addition, they figured out this Quentin Post kid. Like they found him out of nowhere. He gives them like a 3-point shooting threat. Curry's relaxed. Green's hitting threes. Now Kuminga's back. They'll be up for this game. They'll be up for the Nuggets. I like the Warriors. I thought they were going to win 38 games. They were on a 38 win pace until they made this trade. Now they've already won 38. They're 39 and 28. Now they probably have a chance to win 50. So I think they got a shot. I think they got a real shot. I would say, how far can they carry it? I would say Western Conference Finals. Now, some people might say they can get further than that. I don't.
Who do you like to come out of the West? The Lakers?
I kind of like Denver. I also kind of like OKC. Okay. Denver or OKC, I would say. To me, it's. I think Warriors get the win tonight, but I would say they will. If
the Niners play OKC, if the Warriors play OKC, the Niners, is Jimmy Butler taking that matchup with Shea? Who's taking that matchup?
Oh, that's a good question.
Kuminga? It would have been Wiggins.
Yeah, it would have been Wiggins. I mean, whatever defender. I mean, I'll say for at least 15 minutes, you want to put GP2 on him.
Oh, yes,
GP2 is just
he's so good.
He'll just turn off your water.
That's a great point.
He's just so.
I love
incredible.
That player. Yeah,
but I would.
I
say,
like the Warriors.
I like the Warriors. I like the Warriors to win and win and win until they run into the Nuggets or the Thunder in the playoffs, and I think they go down there. That would be my guess. And I think even then it's going to be a 6-game knockdown drag out. But give me Denver or OKC over Golden State in the conference finals. But I don't, I thought they were going to win 38 games. And they're, I didn't see the Jimmy Butler thing being this amazing trade, and I thought he was going to come over and kind of be a drama guy. But you know what? They did the right thing. They didn't just trade for him. They traded for him and they signed him. And that was really smart. So I think Cleveland or Boston wins it all. I think the champion comes out of the East this year. But I like the Warriors to get to maybe the conference finals against OKC or Denver.
Go to BetUS, check out their sports betting and their live casino games as well. Larry, what is the 49ers' primary need entering this draft? Linebacker, offensive line, defensive line, what is it?
I want to say it's defensive tackle because I really want to badly start the draft at defensive tackle. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, one of those two guys. But you know what? The more I think about this, the more I think, you know what? They really have to build up this offensive line too. I mean, this is if they're gonna be a team, big time team, they're gonna need an offensive line that's quite a bit better than what they have right now. So I'll say defensive tackle by a whisker over offensive tackle.
Yeah. I mean, to me, yes, you want to take an offensive lineman with the first pick, but you've done such a bad job of drafting and preparing for the future, particularly in the trenches, that like technically you don't need an offensive tackle right now because you have McKivitz and you have Trent Williams. Like you really need a defensive tackle, a starter, a plug and play guy, and you're clearly not going to get him in free agency. You can't tell me that Jordan Elliott is good enough to start.
No.
He's terrible. He's not a pass rusher, and he's not a particularly good run defender. He's a backup. And the other starter is Kevin Givens. He's a backup. There's no upside there. With Yatir Gross-Matos, they're paying him a lot of money this year. I could see them saying, well, okay, he could be our base end, and maybe we'll kick him inside on pass rush downs. But he has a long time injury history. You need plug and play guys. So if you can tell me that you're going to get those guys in on day 2, fine. Then you can do something else in round 1. But you better get plug and play defensive linemen because you can't have freaking Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott starting this year. I mean, you can, I guess, if you want to suck. Sorry.
I mean, here's the dilemma. The third round defensive tackles there's like 10 good ones. The third round offensive tackles, there's like 3 good ones. So that's the question. It's like, how do you do this? You need both. So you may have to pass up on the first round defensive tackles to get an offensive tackle if you want to get one in this draft. If you don't care about getting one in this draft, then you may want to just go defense, and maybe even some skill position guys. They could use. I think they're going great running back early in this draft, like round 2. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, one of those two guys.
No.
They're going to go running back. I know
they can't go running back in round 2. To me, rounds 1 and 2, you have to have starters. Day 1, round 1 and 2. No, like you have too many holes to say we're taking an offensive tackle who's going to start next year. We're taking a running back who is going to be a great backup for Christian McCaffrey. No, you need a starting defensive tackle, a starter. And like you can't take any risks on character concerns, guys who are injured, guys who just had surgery. Like you need clean bill of health and character.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
But what if this, Grant? What if they are going to trade Aiyuk? What if and Debo's already gone? What if they look at Christian and say, hey, look, the best chance we have to get through this season is to use him at least 35% of the time outside the tackle box, away from the big defensive tackles and linebackers as a receiver. And then, because I mean, Quinshon Judkins is 225 pounds and runs 4.4 and is a beast.
All I would say, yes, he's good, but wait until round 3. Wait until round 4. yes, I know you want a premium running back, Kyle. I get it, man, but you didn't address the trenches. That's your fault. So you got to wait one more round. Then the thing about running backs is you can find good running backs. The thing about the running back is you're going to take a guy in round 3 or 4, and then we're going to take a guy in round 6 and 7, and he's going to be better every time.
History says that. History says that for sure. By the way, today also was the Arizona Pro Day, and Tetaroa McMillan ran today, and he ran 4.48 at 6'4", 219 pounds. So he, that's the other question here is that
he's so good.
What happens if I'm right? And they are going to trade Aiyuk. And would you consider going with Tetaroa McMillan at 11?
No.
Who is
I would love him. I love him. But no, they have to go trenches with their first 2 picks. And you could go offensive line. And again, better to go BPA. But they did this to themselves, Larry. You can't keep kicking the can on the trenches. You got to look at the Eagles and say, this is something that they take care of first. Look at the Bears, Ben Johnson, same thing. This is primary importance. Love Ted McMillan, man, but you got issues, bigger problems. Have to be trenches, first 2 picks. They have to be starters. You can't have Josh Simmons. Might be a great player. He's coming off an injury. No. No more Reuben Fosters. No more Javon Kinlaws. No more Solomon. Absolute locks as close as you can find.
I agree. I mean, I would say this. The better conversation is not what position. The better conversation is do what Brad Holmes does from the Lions. Everybody ripped Brad Holmes when he signed Jack Campbell. Everybody when he drafted him. Everybody ripped Brad Holmes when he drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. They ain't ripping him now. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of like the guy. So just draft great players. I know that seems really generic way of saying it, but I don't care. If you have a very good offensive tackle, a really good defensive tackle, and a star corner, then draft the corner. You need to draft stars. No more picks. You had picks. Danny Gray's a pick. Ty Davis Price is a pick. You've had promising guys. No more promising guys. Go get stars. Guys who produce, guys who are great. Lions are doing it. You're not going to be able to win the Super Bowl unless you find a way. I don't care what position they play. They have to come away with 5 to 7 great players in the next year and a half. If they don't, the other teams are just better. So you're going to have to find a great player. Who's a truly great player is this Texas corner, this Jedi Barron, who's they say he's like Brian Branch. And when you watch his film, he's amazing. And you saw him test at that combine. He was terrific. They don't necessarily need a corner, but they absolutely have to find, or they do, I think, have a need for a corner. But I'm not saying that's a primary need. They just got to find greatness. Find and draft greatness.
And you need day 1 starters in the D-line, 2 at D-tackle. So if you feel you can get those guys in round 3, God love you, man. Get them in round 3, of course, and get some better players at different positions in round 1 and 2, but you cannot miss. And I'm looking back at the Rams, that we've discussed. That's the blueprint. In 2023, they drafted Steve Avila. That was their first pick, round 2. So they got an offensive lineman. Then round 3, they went back-to-back, Byron Young and Kobe Turner. So they found 2 day 1 contributors on the D-line in round 3. If the Niners can do that too, God love them. But they have to. You have to.
They have
to. So what's the pick at 11?
To me, it comes down to 3 guys. Membu, who's just a crazy athlete, one of the best offensive line films I've seen. He's amazing. He would be the offensive lineman I would go for. Then you're choosing between Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant, the 2 defensive tackles. Walter Nolan is like a Chris Jones. He can play defensive end, defensive tackle, 3 technique, 1 technique, 5 technique. He can rush from the edge. He's an everything defensive lineman. And then there's Kenneth Grant, who's much more like
Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence. That's who he is. That's exactly who he is. He's Dexter Lawrence. He's enormously strong, and but he's so big and fast he can actually rush the passer. He's not Mozzie Smith from the same school who went in the first round to Dallas a couple years ago. He's way better than that guy. So it's those guys at 11, I would say. And then the wild card, I would say, the one wild card that this guy's just so spectacular, he has to be considered, is Jalen Walker from Georgia, who's, he's an edge rusher at Georgia, but he's a stack backer. And he's like, you think of all these great Georgia players, he's better than all of them. Like, who's the guy for the Ravens, the inside backer, Roquan? He's better than Roquan. He's better than their edge rushers. He's, and he can do it all. And he's smart. He's aggressive. He's like athletic. To me, Jalen Walker might be an NFL defensive player of the year type.
What about Jihad Campbell?
He's a Micah Parsons.
What about Jihad?
Oh, amazing. I mean, Jihad Campbell is amazing. He's a little high cut. And the only thing I would say negative about Jihad is just that there are some awesome inside linebackers you could get later who might do the same kinds of things. But Jihad Campbell worked out like a star. He played like a star. I'm sure coach is fired up. He's a big Bama guy. I know he loves Jihad. Jihad is big, tall, fast, productive inside linebacker. He's going to be, he's quite a bit better than, remember they had that kid Hightower, Dante Hightower a few years ago. He's quite a bit better than that guy.
There's been a lot of busts of off-ball Alabama linebackers because they never have to take on blocks in college. They play behind all the best defensive linemen coming out of high school, and they get to run and hit. That was sort of the Reuben Foster story, the Rolando McClain story. But for those guys, there was also D'Amico, C.J. Mosley. So you can't just write off all of them. My thing with Jihad, again, I'm coming back to needs. It's like, yeah, hell of a player, but I kind of like D Winters, and there's some upside there, and he's cost effective while there's no upside at your D tackle position. Zero ups. Well, I'm intrigued with Evan Anderson, and I'm intrigued with Kalia Davis, but like they really need to prove it from, the ground up. You can't just give them the starting job.
You got to have a guy that 6 weeks into the year is in the top 3 for the defensive rookie of the year award balloting. You know what I mean? You got to have a guy who's not just, a pretty good player on your team. He's one of the best players on defense in the league. I mean, they need to hit. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's more about star power. Find some stars. You need some stars. Greenlaw was a star, man. You're losing stars. You've got to find young star players. I mean, that's what the Eagles are doing. That's what the Lions are doing. That's what you got to do.
I'm leaning towards Kenneth Grant. I think if the Niners had Dexter Lawrence in the middle of their wide 9, they would be so difficult to run on, and they'd be dominant. I don't know if Kenneth Grant is Dexter Lawrence, but he looks like him to me. That's the guy I'm leaning toward. Membu would be great, but again, like, what happens to McKivitz? Is McKivitz still playing? Is he go to the bench? And that's fine to upgrade at right tackle. That's a big upgrade, but you still, like, if they had just signed Azeez Ojulari and maybe a couple D tackles for 1-year deals, then you could do whatever you want. But you didn't do that. You really said, well, we'll handle that in the draft. Okay. Multiple starters in one draft. Okay. At the same position, you better get that right.
No doubt. I am doing a video that I'll have out later tonight on the Niners, like who are really the Niners offensive line targets. And I went back, Grant, and I basically looked at last year. They went for Pooney and Kingston and Nugent and Bryson Mays. All 4 of these guys ran like really fast, short shuttle, which is like the 20-yard shuttle, which reflects, your change of direction and your explosiveness, because you got to stop and start and turn around. Mm-hmm. So I went through and cross compared all the offensive linemen that had the best short shuttle times. They also went for guys like all the guys they went for last year were guys that were experienced, had played a lot of college football and started a lot of games. So I went and looked at, of the guys who had the best short shuttle times, how many of them had a full career in college football. And I came up with 10 names, and I'll be doing a video on these 10 players today. And all I'll say, to give it away, is one of them is Membu. One of them is this Josh Connerly from Oregon, who had an amazing 171 10-yard split. He's a former high school running back. But I'll go with 10 offensive linemen that I think if they go into this draft with the same mindset of last draft, these will be guys that they'll want. So we'll see. We'll put that out.
Keep in mind, like they may have different benchmarks for different positions. So maybe in the interior they want 4.5 and faster. Trent Williams is at 4.64. Tristan Wirfs at 4.68. Maybe with a little higher cut, 6'7", 6'8", it's going to be tougher to get down and change directions like that. Colton McKivitz is like a 5 flat. So I'm sure it's important to them, but maybe they have different benchmarks for offensive tackles.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but they definitely like the short shuttle.
Yes,
they definitely. So I looked
for
up
all
the
positions.
Short shuttle. I looked up the 10-yard split and the 40 to see the athleticism because they do like speed in their offensive linemen. And then went back and found how many of these guys were 4-year starters, accomplished, cross compared them, came up with 10 names that I think are kind of their super sweet spot for offensive line. Somebody asked me to do this earlier today, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I realized it was going to take me like 4 hours, but what the hell? I did it, and I'll put out the video later today, and we'll talk about it.
I love it. I'll be watching that. Darius Otley says Dobbs was the best option last year. I don't trust Kyle's eye. Let him beat Mack in camp, stay healthy, and win clutch games in the winter before we pay him. That's fair. Dazza says, is Brock really $45 million a year better than Mac Jones? I guess we'll see. They're on the same team now. We'll find out. Niners logic, sign a blocking tight end and pass his prime running back, fullback, yet for a few million more a year, they could have signed Dahlman. Dahlman was expensive.
Yeah, he got paid.
Dahlman was expensive. David Kindle Jr. says, the word of the day is more. Okay, fair enough. Larry, I got one more question for you, maybe two. Do you think Saleh was blindsided by this defensive exodus? I mean, all the starters that they didn't re-sign anyone, and they brought in, some guys on flyers.
The reporting around Greenlaw was that Saleh was like adamant that he wanted Greenlaw to come back. So he might be a little put out at this point that, man, you want me to come back here? You want me to, to rectify everything on the defensive side of the ball? And, what do we got? So I think his coattails are pretty, I think Robert Saleh is going to get everything that he wants draft wise, coaching wise, because free agency wise, it's about money, and you're not going to get guys without money. They couldn't get Greenlaw despite the fact that Saleh wanted him. But this all being said, that all being said, I think that he will get the players that he wants in the draft, and the players that he wants are the coaches that he wants. That's why Brant Boyer's here. So I think Saleh probably knew that they were in a tough bind, but I don't know that he knew to what level, to what extent.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when he's over here interviewing for the job, it's possible that he just didn't ask that question and he assumed that they would be making another run and that this did blindside. It could have blindsided John and Kyle. I don't know. But I think it's also possible that the Niners said, look, we have limited funds and we're going to spend those mostly on the offense because we're gearing up to pay Brock and we want continuity. So we're going to draft defense a lot early and you're going to be heavily involved. Or does that sound like something you're into? And I think maybe Saleh said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just did that with the Jets. I'm good at it. I want to sort of remake this defense in mind. But that being said, I felt like, didn't he want to come here for a year, maybe two, and then bounce back and be a head coach? You really want to build a defense from scratch? It takes time.
Well, if you want to come here and do a quick bounce to somewhere else next year, I mean, I could see why he'd want Greenlaw. I can see why he would want these players, and he didn't get them. So, I mean,
yeah,
how is Robert Saleh?
Maybe this is the Niners' way of keeping Saleh around. Like, hey, we're going to give you nothing to work with, but we love you. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're going to get paid well, but it's going to take 3 years before you have the kind of defense that anybody else is going to want to pick you off. But we'll see. I mean, it's also about expectations. Like, what are the expectations? If their expectations are unrealistic, then maybe he didn't know what he was getting into. But if their expectations are that they're going through a transition year, then maybe he knew. Maybe they told him.
Yeah, possible. All right, last question. I'll let you out of here. Who's the kicker? How is Jake Moody still on the team? What is the plan? I'm getting worried.
I think they're going to add another kicker.
Okay.
I do. I don't believe they're just going to say, "Hey, Jake Moody, you're the guy." I think they're going to draft a kicker or sign a kicker. God, I hope it's signing, not drafting. I really don't want to see them draft a kicker, but the guy that I would say that I like, and not that I know kickers, but The Ole Miss had a bunch of great players this year, and they have a kicker named Caden Davis who just has a monster leg. I don't know if how accurate he is, but he does have a huge leg, and this kid was just booting him. So that's the guy I'd be interested in, Caden Davis. He started at Texas A&M. He transferred to Ole Miss to play for Lane.
When is he getting picked?
Arm. 7th rounder, undrafted.
Thank God.
Probably undrafted, actually.
That'd be better.
Yes, that would be better. No more.
I still don't like that he's still on the
kickers.
team. It just feels like, once again, roster politics or being unwilling to just admit that you got a 3rd round pick wrong. It's okay. You can admit it. It's wrong. You got to move on. And I feel like you got to just be able to admit that. It's good for the franchise. It's the truth.
I mean, there's 8 draft eligible kickers this year. None of them are listed as actually draft eligible, because the first guy is listed as the 269th best player, which is that's an undrafted player. Andres Borregales is 292. Caden Davis they list him at 400 as far as total prospects.
Jeez.
So these guys will not get drafted, but yeah, Caden Davis. I'm rooting for Caden Davis from Ole Miss.
Go get David Akers.
Yeah,
it's not that old.
Call Robbie Gold. See where he's at.
Yeah, come on. He likes money. Who else could we get? Doug Bryan.
Doug Bryan. That's right. The Niners' last field goal kicker they drafted after they won the Super Bowl.
Gary Anderson.
Doug
Morton
Bryan.
Anderson. Morton Anderson's got to be 75 years old.
Jan Stenerud. Call Jan Stenerud.
It's got to be God. All right, Larry, thank you so much for giving me an hour and 15. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. There's a ton of people here. I have no idea why the Niners aren't doing anything. They're being kind of boring, and I don't appreciate it. But no, they're not being boring. It's been very exciting and interesting. Hard to explain, but I'm sure there will be a spreadsheet soon that will put it into perspective, and I'll appreciate that. So, Larry, see you soon.
See you soon.